think God stays in heaven because he too lives in fear of what he's created?
Okay.
You know how when you're a kid, you have those memories of a TV show being on, and it doesn't feel real in retrospect, but you know you're not crazy. It was a real thing. You did see it, but no one else saw it. It was 3 a.m. You were alone. There were no witnesses. No one believes you, but you swear it was real. You hope and pray to our Lord and Savior Barack Obama that you didn't just hallucinate a weird 3D CGI spider monkey, but you know it was real. But when your family asks you what the show or movie was called, you can't recall. And everyone looks and laughs at you. What do you mean you saw a flying pig? Maybe when pigs fly. And then they push you down and they start hitting you and calling you names like dummy and stupid and butthead and idiot. Oh, no. No, just me. Spy Kids 2! For the longest time, I don't know why, but I can remember like brief flashbacks of Spy Kids 2. I mean, it's not surprising I hardly remember it. I'm not even a week older than the film. The only reason I even know this movie is because Disney Channel used to play this like all the time when I was like 5 or 6. Which, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. It took years to get from theaters to TV back then. I mean, today Black Panther Wakanda Forever is already streaming, and as of recording this video, came out in theaters exactly 4 months ago. I have the same problem with Spy Kids 3 as well, but for some reason not Spy Kids 1 or 4, but maybe not Spy Kids 4, because I vividly remember seeing the trailers for that and like how far they pushed the ad campaign that you could see this movie and smell-o-vision. So glad we stopped with that shit. But today we're focused on Spy Kids 2, The Island of Lost Dreams. Spoiler alert, they never actually say that in the movie. Like, they never say it's The Island of Lost Dreams or anything along the lines of that. Not that I need movie titles name dropped, but they spend like 80% of the film of the island, and the only reason we even know what it's called is because it's in the title of the movie. They never say it. Produced by Troublemaker Studios and written and directed by Robert Rodriguez, Spy Kids 2 is a sequel to the hit film Spy Kids 1. And you're probably thinking something like, you should be doing a video on Spy Kids 1 first. No, because Spy Kids 1 doesn't keep me up at night questioning my own sanity. This movie was a relatively large-sized project for the studio. They've made quite a few movies that were relatively successful before this, hence why they were even able to put $39 million into a kids movie, but those movies were made before the company actually rebranded itself from Los Hooligans Productions. Spy Kids 1 was actually the first movie to be made under the Troublemaker Studios brand name, Spy Kids 2 and 3 respectively being the second and third films to be released under Troublemaker Studios, but after the success of Spy Kids 1 through 3, they had quite a bit of money to make whatever the hell they wanted for a while, so they ended up putting out 10 movies, and Spy Kids 4 ended up being the 13th movie that Troublemaker Studios ever released. To be honest, I imagine a studio like this would have shut down a while ago, but they're still kicking today. Most of you probably know them from Spy Kids and also Shark Boy and Lava Girl as well. More of the recent works that most of you know them from is probably something like Alita Battle Angel, but you could take a look at this list and tell me if you recognize anything else, because I wouldn't imagine that most people even do. Fun fact you may have seen on that list, they're actually rebooting the Spy Kids universe, which I actually only found out while writing this video, so I will 100% be writing a review on that when it comes out to theaters, probably later this year I imagine. Production for this film apparently wrapped in August of 2020, and Robert Rodriguez is apparently coming back to produce. Bro is really dusting off his boots after 12 years to make another goddamn Spy Kids film. Well, let's just hope they spent the last 12 years cooking in the kitchen like DreamWorks did with Puss in Boots, and we'll get another peak film this year. But we don't really give a shit about that right now. This is a Spy Kids 2 family. Released on August 7th, 2002, Spy Kids 2 actually did quite well. It ended up making about $120 million. Not as much as its predecessor, but that's still no small amount. Making 4 times more than your budget isn't something a lot of films can do. The reception was pretty mixed, but also kind of leaning towards being positive. I guess to be fair, it depends largely on how you want to review this movie. If you're judging this film and comparing it to something like Pulp Fiction, it's an easy F, but it's a pretty good kids film in my opinion. IMDb today is for some reason not as positive though, but I think that's because casual viewers see bad CGI and just automatically call it a bad movie. But we're not sheeple, we're people. So I think it's high time we watch this movie and make our own opinion. Alright, let's go spy on some kids. That sounded better in my head. Let's just watch the movie. Our movie actually starts out in a pretty creative way. The Troublemaker Studios logo takes us straight to Troublemaker Park, the theme park well known for having the world's creepiest mascot ever. They really start off with a bang when we learn that the president's daughter is the person who's currently getting all of the attention at said theme park. Everyone is taking pictures of the president's daughter that surely won't end up on the wrong side of the internet, but everyone is really just curious about where her dad is. I would also be quite concerned if an unattended child didn't know the whereabouts of their own parents, especially if the parent they're missing is the president of the goddamn United States. The second character we meet is Dinky Winks, I wish I was making that name up, but nope. And yes, I did check, that is his legal name according to the Spy Kids 2 wiki. Troublemaker Theme Park is a theme park that prides itself on its ability to avoid reckless endangerment lawsuits. Just so you know, there is a 0% chance that you would make it out of any of these rides alive, largely due to the fact that every single one of these rides would cause you a, quite frankly, impressive amount of brain damage. But Alexandria, the president's daughter, is uninterested in going out in such a bitch-made way, like being subjected to 36 G's worth of force.
Ooh, that's kind of small. Yikes.
Oh no, she's here for the juggler. That was actually my nickname in high school. Different reason though. The juggler takes its victims, riders, and literally throws them at the fastest speed the government will allow, and as is in the name, juggles the f out of you.
That's quite big. Impressive.
How the hell is this anywhere near legal? Regardless, Mr. Dinky Winks does imply that the ride is very safe. So safe, in fact, that an 8-year-old child is able to steal the override key right in front of him and 2 Secret Service agents. It turns out getting the ride to stop was her plan the entire time because she's actually the world's youngest adrenaline junkie. The Secret Service agents end up scrambling to figure out how to get her down, but they give up exactly 14 seconds in, and that is hilarious. But they bring in the Spy Kids to save the day, because they're smaller. That is literally the reason. It's just because they're small. They also call in 2 other Spy Kids as backup. Vegeta here identifies them to be Gary and Gertie. They seem really upset about them being there, but that's just because these kids are dicks. Gary's bitch ass wants to take over the rescue for no other reason than to be cool. But I know what you're thinking. That was a really engaging 5 minutes, but I wish something really stupid would happen that would inflate the tension of the scene unnaturally for no other reason than to raise the stakes unnecessarily. Well, not only are you unbelievably specific, but you're also in luck, because one of the Secret Service agents begins messing with the control panel for literally no reason and accidentally turns the machine on again. Alexandra only did this stunt because she wanted her absentee father, who I remind you is the President of the United States, to be more present in her life. This movie could be an advertisement for condoms because goddamn, it reminds me that kids suck. As it turns out though, Spy Kids have so much authority that being only level 2 means that you get to boss around the president. So this kid tells Alexandria that he can force the president to have a conversation with his own daughter. Gertie shuts down the machine with some mumbo jumbo sci-fi malarkey.
Google, show me this guy's balls, please.
And the kids take her down, but not before stealing an arc reactor from her dad's office this morning, which Gary takes down instead because he wants to look good. But after the Secret Service agents learn that she stole the device, she gets to ride the scariest ride in the whole theme park, a 20-year life sentence without the possibility of parole. They also airlift the arc reactor out, and Gary leaves in the baby copter. Gary, please, I promise you, you are not as cool as you think you are in that thing. This literally looks like it came out of a Dr. Seuss book. We cut to the next scene and find Carmen asking her mom for more responsibility on a solo job, but because she's a level 2 agent, she can't do solo jobs yet. So let me get this straight. Being a level 2 agent means that you have the president on speed dial, but you're not allowed to go on any missions alone. Got it. We then watch this scene of Junie getting ready to attend, and it's really odd watching his dad comb the absolute out of his hair. Apparently they're getting ready to attend the next OSS meeting. Well, they'll find out if their daughter gets to become the new director of the OSS. Gary calls Junie fat and says his head looks big, and then Carmen, who is Junie's sister by the way, says, "You'll have to excuse my little brother." Nigga, he just called your brother fat and ugly and you apologized for it. Gary wants to dance with Carmen, but Carmen's dad doesn't seem too on board with it, going so far as to grill him on what dance moves he even knows.
What kind of dances?
All types of dances.
What about tango?
Yes.
Mambo?
Fairly well.
Rumba?
Yes. Cha-cha-cha. 7 steps.
Paso doble? Merengue?
Of course.
But he does it just to mess with Gary because him and Junie both realize that Gary fucking sucks. Alexandra's there but refuses to dance with Junie unless he does ballet. I'm gonna skip over the entire dance, but he does a lat spread here, and I think that's pretty funny. I don't like how this movie writes kids like adults and therefore writes child romance like adult romance. It's quite uncomfortable, but Junie gets cucked and the presentation begins. Gary and Gertie also cuck Junie out of getting credit for saving Alexandra. I'm only pointing this out because it's funny how Junie's immediate reaction is to throw hands. Junie has officially earned my respect. But then Gregorio is cucked out of... Wow, there is a lot of cucking going on. Gregorio is cucked out of his win as the machine is hacked, and Donovan Giggles, father of Gertie and Gary, takes the position of OSS director away from him. not to be rude, but I really wouldn't trust this guy in a room full of kids. Regardless, he accepts the position and gives his children level 1 badges. Keep in mind, in the opening scene of this movie, we're aware of the fact that Gary doesn't even have a level 2 badge, as he's shocked that Junie even has a level 2 badge. So these two are officially the benefactors of nepotism. He also publicly assigns 2 private agents the top secret Yukata assignment in front of a room full of people. Everyone in the room then takes a celebratory sip of champagne, except for the spy kids, and pass out instantly. This is entirely unrelated, but this is the 3rd film or show I've reviewed that includes some scene where a large gathering of people is drugged by food or drink. Not really important or related, but I'm beginning to question my choices in media consumption a bit more. Junie hops on the table to announce to all the sleeping adults that they're after the arc reactor. If you're curious, it's actually called the trans smoker device, but arc reactor is arguably cooler and funnier, so I'm ignoring facts for my feelings, just like any good YouTube commentator, or politician, should. They immediately get cornered, and I'm beginning to think I know where Taika Waititi got the idea for the ending of Thor: Love and Thunder. There was also 2 shots of Junie doing nothing for some reason. I edited these together, by the way. There was stuff that happened in between them. I don't know why we needed 2 of these shots. Junie gets the arc reactor back, but it doesn't matter because Gary wants it for himself, so they end up losing it again. Carmen does like 30 flips for no reason, and then a UFO comes up and uses a giant magnet on all these people's metal hats to get them out. They are severely overestimating the amount of weight that a human neck can hold. They would be dead after like 3 minutes of this, if even that much. Junie is immediately blamed and shamed for the loss of the arc reactor. He doesn't even try to explain himself, but it's okay because none of them are mad, they're just all disappointed. Gary keeps trying to protect himself, and everyone is acting like a second 9/11 is gonna happen if they don't get this device back, which, I mean, we don't know what it does yet, so to be fair, that's not entirely impossible. This is an establishing shot. Maybe I should have watched Spy Kids 1, because what the holy hell is happening here? This guy's never seen again though, so don't get too attached. They go to the treehouse where Carmen announces she wants to go to get the arc reactor, because apparently Junie got fired over losing the arc reactor and never even once tried to say Gary was lying. Carmen and Junie send Ralph to go spy on Gary and Gertie. How the hell are all of these people agents and have like a -1 perception stat? No one saw this. Ralph spies on a debriefing of the Yukata mission. They decide to send spy kids instead of spy adults because spy kids small and spy adult too big. Yeah, for real, because the extra 2 feet of height that the average adult has on Gary is going to be the make or break of this mission. Also, have you ever thought of sending, I don't know, women? You know, those people that are 5'4" on average? Hell, if it's that important to you, just send a Hispanic woman. Carmen reinstates Junie to the OSS, which is actually super easy and barely an inconvenience. She also assigns them the Yukata case and sends Gary and Gertie to the Gobi Desert. What in the name of sweet baby Jesus is the system of checks and balances, or rather the lack thereof, that the OSS uses? How can she reinstate and assign an agent to a case in 2 minutes, give said agent level 2 access, and then send 2 other agents to the middle of Asia? I'm a big fan of suspension of disbelief, but really? Not one person noticed this. Regardless, they get ready to go, and what the f***? Why is Danny Trejo here? All jokes aside, Danny Trejo plays Isidore Cortez, their uncle. He apparently built the treehouse and brings them a whole new slew of gadgets. If you've seen Spy Kids 1, you probably know this, but I don't want to rewatch this one because this is the silly one. Isidore gives her the Elastic Wonder, which is basically a rubber band, but he calls it a device with 999 uses. You just need to figure out what they are. They head to OSS and get Felix to bring them a Dragon Spy 5, but not before Gary and Gertie show up to flex their new Gucci gadgets. Gary also then hands Junie Ralph's dead body, but he says it's okay because Ralph was outdated anyway. Can you imagine if we said that to living people?
Sorry, Grandpa, we have to put you down. You're just outdated. Oh, you look like one of them expensive Negroes. You look like you'd go for about $7.
You know, maybe this is a good thing. Felix also notes that Junie and Carmen have the Yukata assignment and says very nice. What the hell is the Yukata assignment? How does everyone know what this thing is? And what was the Yukata assignment prior to when the arc reactor was lost? Because right now the Yukata assignment is to get it back, but the Yukata assignment was referenced before they lost the arc reactor. Carmen and Junie argue about Gary. Junie says that he's a bad guy, but Carmen says that,
I think I can change him. really, nigga?
Yeah, she's gonna get manipulated for sure. Carmen dives into some old OSS secrets, even noticing that Donegan's name comes up over and over again, even though he wasn't even OSS director. We then cut to this guy. We'll call him Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson is in the middle of recording an epic rap battle of history video before he's so rudely interrupted by Junie calling for advice. He also has these life-size robots of Junie and Carmen that he surely hasn't done anything illegal to.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
But they're not looking to talk to Magic Johnson. They're looking to talk to this guy. His name is Minion. He's played by Tony Shalhoub, which is cool, but I'm more distracted by how horrifying he looks. Minion also suggests that Donegan is behind the missing arc reactor. That's actually all he says. Good thing he didn't have anything else to say because they end up losing power and crashing immediately after. After making their way into an old underwater OSS outpost, they grab some wetsuits and make their way out using these inflatable suits. A cool fact is that they actually manufactured these suits as a real-world promotional material for the film. If you don't believe me, you can just search up Spy Kids inflation. In other news, Gary and Gertie have now arrived at the Gobi Desert and sink into a pile of camel poop, which is so funny. I'm holding back all of my laughter right now because of how fucking hilarious this is.
Oh no, he's hot!
The Cortezes argue about something lame about, I don't know, marriage or something. Donegan finds out that Junie and Carmen have left for the Yukata assignment and they go to get them. But not before Ingrid's parents show up for no reason. Yeah, there's literally no reason for this. Like, it's established that Ingrid's mom doesn't like Gregorio, but that's not really important. These dragon-looking things come up and bite Junie and Carmen's inflatable suits in the ass, but the dragon pushes them inwards towards shore and they wash up shortly after. They finally piece together that none of their gadgets work, which means they actually have to think for once in their damn lives. We cut to Donegan in his comically large office and talks to one of the Magna Men. That's what they're called. 'Cause magnets. Guys, it's funny 'cause magnets. It turns out that they're on the island looking for something called the source of equal or greater power. They're also looking for the island man, but he's chilling underground, so we'll worry about that later. The kids go back to doing their actual fucking job and checking out the island. One of the Magna Men flies by and nearly decapitates the kids. Why does no one in the movie have the ability to see what is directly in front of them? There is no way that bro did not see these kids. Gary and Gertie try to catch up to Junie and Carmen. Gertie says that they need to go faster, but they're already going 85 knots, which for anyone who is normal and doesn't know that, that's 95 miles an hour. I'm not putting that into kilometers because I wrote the script already and forgot to do it. They eventually get up to top speed after slowly getting faster until they crash. Now how the f are they not dead? Even at 95 miles an hour, these two would be turned into camel pancakes with how hard they stop. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Key, it's a kids movie. You're being a little too nitpicky. No, you. I want these two dead in the goriest way imaginable. They end up bouncing to shore and having the same realization that technology doesn't work. They're also now onto the fact that the Cortez siblings are also on the island. Junie refuses to climb the mountain because it's dangerous and he's a pussy, but he's less scared of whatever's making noise in the forest, so they end up heading to the mountain. Junie and Carmen end up making it to the top of the mountain before the sun even moves an inch. Junie then also falls into the volcano and they're left dangling. But it's okay because dying by falling in lava is probably gonna be over quick, I think. But there's a funny SpongeBob reference and they actually end up falling down there for 4 hours straight. But right before they hit the ground, they're caught by an air geyser. They meet this guy. We'll call him Weezer. I don't know anything about the band Weezer, but if I did, I imagine that this is what all four of them put together would look like, even though I've never seen any of them. Oh, but he's a doctor, so that's Dr. Weezer to you. Dr. Weezer does a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Shrunk Animals, which actually explains how Noah's Ark probably could have worked. He did this because he wanted to sell small animals to kids. Why? But Dr. Weezer got a little too creative and decided to play God, making his own new creatures. He wanted to make the animals a bit bigger, and yes, this is directly from the movie when I'm saying this, but Dr. Weezer wanted to make larger animals for kids with meatier hands. He made the growth serum and it worked, but it was too potent and all the animals ended up growing too big. Remember kids, always call your doctor if effects last more than 4 hours. He wonders why the creatures even want to kill him even though he created them, and then he drops the absolute rawest line I've ever heard in a kid's movie.
Do you think God stays in heaven because he too lives in fear of what he's created?
That's what I wonder every time I open up Twitter, Dr. Weezer. Dr. Weezer then goes on to explain the reason that he can't be found and no technology works is because he made a sort of cloaking device. It's like an EMP, but it runs forever. Everything electrical that comes near him turns off, which actually reveals 3 things. 1, he made the transmoker device. 2, what the transmoker device does. And 3, that the thing turning off all the technology is just a larger version of the transmoker device. So I give credit for them for tidying up 3 things within like one fell swoop. Not a lot of movies do that. All 3 of them hear Gertie scream, and Dr. Weezer says that Gertie and Gary are being attacked by one of God's abominations, but he refuses to go help because he's well aware of the fact that he'll get killed by them. Junie is also based as f and wants to leave them for dead too, but the Cortezes still go to help anyway. After saving these sorry sacks of shit, they bring him to Dr. Weezer. It's then explained that Weezer does work for Donegan, but he thought it was because he wanted the animals and not the arc reactor. Gary and Junie argue about what being a good spy really is, but then Gertie does like any white girl on a Target and gets to shoplifting. But the Giggles kids then take their leave, refusing to believe that their father could possibly be evil. We go back to the Cortez parents, and they're headed to the island as well. Gregorio uses tracking technology that should probably be illegal to find their exact location. But before they make it there, they find Ingrid's parents stashed away. They just want to help find the kids, but wow, that's a weird way to go about it. But the Grand Cortezes do make sure that they're more than capable of taking care of themselves.
Robo bitch.
But if they get near the arc reactor, won't he just be more handicapped than he was before? The Cortez kids wants to go shut down the machine, but it's not going to be easy to do. They take these magnet things to get where they're going, and the Giggles aren't far behind. There's actually 3 sets of the magnets, which makes you think that someone's going to be conveniently taking one of these later, but spoiler alert, nobody does. They get attacked by slizzards, which are snake lizards, and have to abandon ship, but Gary and Gertie weren't so unlucky and stay on their way. Alexandra gets a message from Gary right before their fatal accident that basically just teaches her the best way to gaslight her father into loving her again. That's literally all. There's this scene here, which isn't really important, but I wanted to let you know it's here, but I don't want to write a joke for it, so just act like I said something funny. Really, dude? This next scene is something I'm surprised made it past censors, where they viciously rip the tooth tracking devices out of their mouth because Carmen believes they should be responsible for themselves and don't need anybody else to help. This is like the definition of childish stupidity. But what makes it worse is the sound of when the tooth comes out. What the f is this? Is their tooth installed with Velcro? To be fair, her logic does make some sense because she knows that Donovan wants them to be grouped up, but I still think it's stupid. But don't worry, it's fine because Grandpa put a tracker on Junie's necklace. That's really more concerning than it is sweet. Like, yeah, sure, I get that it comes in clutch now, but what the f were you thinking? Hey, wanna see literally the worst thing ever? Boom. Spider monkey. They jump into this dark cave because it's their best option, and somehow the Giggles are there at the exact same time. Like, there's no establishing shot here, they just appear here. But they seem to be cooking something by the looks of it. Junie and Carmen make it to this cave where they can only communicate by thinking things. Talking doesn't even work. But just to test it out a bit more, Carmen asks Junie to think of something, and he just says, "Your feet stink." Something a normal kid would say, it's not that weird. So what does Carmen do? A, does she get upset? B, does she agree? C, does she take cool because this is an awesome new power and she's simply acknowledging it? Or D, does she take her shoe off and sniff it? You know the answer. If more shit like this happened in the film, I might have thought it was a fetish thing, but they're safe for now. I am keeping my eye on you, however, Robert Rodriguez. But they keep cracking and find this thing that they think looks safe. Junie thinks it's a good idea to take this necklace, but his dumbass forgets that Carmen can hear his thoughts. But Carmen forgot to account for the fact that 1, Junie is stupid, and 2, most guys don't really think when they do anything, so she'd have no way of really knowing whether or not he's still going to take it. So he does go back and take it, because I guess he just really wants it. But Heisenbones here wakes up, and I think they're kind of f***ed. They arrive at the split pass, but it just takes them straight back to the entrance, so Carmen goes in and tries to go left, but ends up here? So not only did it lead outside, but now this army of CGI skeletons is here. I don't care if this is 2002. This is a $38 million movie. Why does this CGI look this bad? Carmen gets boomed by a bird and Junie gives back the necklace and the skeletons just leave. Piglin ass motherfucker. Carmen gets dropped off in a bird's nest that also happened to catch Gertie. Gertie then explained that Gary hates Junie's guts. I would have never guessed. Junie tries to eat a granola bar, but he gives it to the spider monkey and befriends it. But Gary also finds a slizzard of his own. So instead of going to go find their own families, Gary wants to f***ing kill Junie. Dr. Weezer sees this on the mini-map and goes to help out Junie. The flying pig also comes back for Gertie and Carmen, so they jump out of a tree and she deploys a parachute right before they hit the ground. But I want you to know, if you did this in real life, you still would break anywhere from 5 to 28 bones. Junie narrowly escapes death, but his spider monkey isn't so lucky.
I don't want to do this no more.
Because he went to the Prometheus school of running away from things. Seriously, dude, you didn't even need to run. Just take like 3 steps to the left. Carmen Ex Machina or whatever, but the important thing is that Gary makes the Pog face. Oh, and Spider Monkey Ex Machina. And I'm gonna be so honest with you, this line actually caught me so off guard.
You're so full of shit, talking mushrooms.
Like, come on. She held that. Oh, and the skeletons are back for some reason. Like, seriously, how did they even get here? But Carmen finally decks Gary in the face. Thank God. Bro had that coming. Even Gertie is with him on this one.
Fair enough.
The spider monkey keeps Gary from escaping, but Donegan is on his way already. Seriously though, we trust this guy around children? Really? They arrive at the arc reactor and have to be careful about shutting it down or else they can get rid of all of the power in the world. But Gary and Gertie come back with Dr. Weezer as a hostage, and Donegan shows up too. Junie thinks he's oh so fucking smart and tries to shut the transmoker down, but accidentally turns it on. But they use their elastic... Fuck it. These are rubber bands. They use their rubber bands on the machine to get it to stay shut. Carmen yeets the arc reactor away and a spork takes it. And I mean, I'm not really gonna bitch about it too much, but wouldn't this be a spig? Like, I get they're calling it a spork and making a pork and spork pun, but why is this the only one that isn't a mix of just the two names? I think they're being rude here to the spork and demeaning it by calling it just meat. Hashtag justice for spork. But Gertie knows where the nest is because her and Carmen got taken by earlier. Since they shut the arc reactor down, they don't think of it immediately, but they did get all of their tech back, so they go to fly and get it back before the others get to it first. I don't know how they didn't get there much faster than the other people, considering they were right behind them in the scene prior to this when they started flying. Dr. Weezer gets cornered, and it seems his bill has finally come due. But as it turns out, his kids still love him, and he's just been an absentee father for all of these years. Carmen sets up the tent from earlier and tries to remote pilot the submarine that crashed back to shore, but their grandparents and parents arrive. I mean, they should still call the submarine anyway, but yeah, sure, go ahead, have your heart-to-heart moment. I've only been watching the movie for an hour, 26 minutes, and 23 seconds. I can wait. The grandpa is indeed rad as fuck whipping this shit around though. They do have their moment, but they get on the run pretty quickly. Seems they spent too much time caring for each other though, because Donegan is already here and is ready to take back the arc reactor. Be honest with me. If I told you that Felix, the engineer from the beginning of the movie, comes back to steal the arc reactor and secretly works for Donegan, would you believe me? No? Oh, well, Felix the engineer from the beginning of the movie comes back to steal the arc reactor and secretly works for Donegan. Yeah, that's right, and you thought Disney's twist villains were bad. He says that the only reason he does it is because Donegan would kill him otherwise, just like he's about to do to the entire Cortez bloodline. This fight is actually really funny because the Cortez family just yells things at Gregorio that they want him to do out loud, so Donegan either ends up just doing the exact same thing or countering. This is actually my favorite part of the whole movie. But after getting whacked in the face, he is down for the count. Donegan readies the arc reactor to kill the grandparents, but Gregorio hops in front of him and tries to save their lives. But it ends up not mattering because Gertie was planning this all along and she hacked the arc reactor to self-destruct when used. The Secret Service shows up in helicopter cars. Wait, what the f is the point of a helicopter car? When the hell are you possibly going to need both a helicopter and a car at the same time? This is like the double-decker couch, but like 46 trillion times more expensive. Alexandra apparently talked to her dad for the first time ever and I guess told them to come here. She takes away Gary's status and fires Donegan, but I mean, this man needs to be locked up. Not even for what he did in the movie, I seriously just do not trust this guy around kids. Gertie does say he'll keep Gary in check, and they fist bump, but they use the generic punch sound effect, so it sounds wildly unnatural.
You go, Gertie.
Gregorio also gets his moment in the sunlight when he saves his grandparents' lives, or at least attempts to, and they finally like him. And he also does become the new director of OSS. Seriously though, there needs to be a longer legal process for everything that Alexandra is doing. She also gives Junie a level 1 spot, but he refuses to take the position, which is good because there is a shockingly low amount of red tape required to get this job. Oh, and it turns out that Junie and Carmen still possess the ability to talk to each other in their heads.
Say it. What? I told you so.
Which I think is concerning and something they should get checked out by a medical professional, a psychic, a priest. Yeah, get a priest on this ASAP. Dr. Weezer also shrank Junie's pet spider monkey and gives it back to him as a little parting gift. Owning this has to be against some law. I don't know, like the Geneva Convention or something. But we get our last looks at the island and the movie ends. Wait, holy that was f***ing Puss in Boots. I love that guy. I guess I couldn't tell because this was 20 years ago. There's also this extra end credit scene of them being rock stars, and I don't get the point of this. I get it's like a hype and cool kids movie end credit scene, but it is so out of touch with the rest of the film. And maybe it's just me, but I'm not a huge fan of watching a 13-year-old girl dance for 3 minutes long. Because this scene is 3 minutes long, by the way. They just should have put this money elsewhere, or had the end credit scene be like a scene of their life after the events of the film. There's this cute little gag at the end where the machine that was supposed to be giving them their dancing, singing, and guitar playing abilities was never even on, so they did it all themselves, which I think is pretty funny. There's also this cute little gag reel at the end that's honestly pretty harmless. I honestly missed the 2000s when doing this was a lot more common. Oh, what's that? You wanted more from the end of the movie? Oh, well here's a canon end credit scene where Winky Dinky meets Weezer, and they want to make a theme park. I'm pretty sure this is how Jurassic Park started. Okay, so now the movie is over. Oh my god, what the hell? Oh, okay, never mind. It was just a cute little sequel tease. Okay, we're done. We're done. We're done. Wow, that really was a Spy Kids 2. So it's safe to say that this movie isn't exactly the definition of peak cinema, but it's far from a terrible film, especially for a kids movie in 2002. I joke about this movie being unrealistic, but let's be real here, that doesn't really matter at all. It's a movie about kids who are spies, so stupid things like the law, for instance, are either going to be super overstated or basically non-existent. There's kind of no middle ground for it to work. I do still think that the CGI is wonky. Like, I know this was an early 2000s movie, but something about it just looks so weird. Keep in mind that Spider-Man came out this same year and the CGI was considerably better. I mean, yes, the budget was also 5 times larger, so I guess I can't bitch too much, but Spy Kids 2 and Spider-Man 1 aged drastically differently. I do think credits need to be given to Robert Rodriguez for not asking for a larger CGI budget simply to challenge himself to be more creative. Not that it necessarily made the movie better or that made the movie age better, but come on, that's some Giga Chad right there. The writing and directing for this movie are both extremely forgettable, however. I mean, even for kids, I don't really think this would be that funny, and the entire script feels like it was written in like an afternoon, outside of like that one raw-ass line that Dr. Weezer spouts. The camera work is also what someone who has never held a camera would do. There's like 3 creative shots in this entire movie. I like the sets, to be honest though. The CGI is more passable for them and they're also pretty well made for the most part. There's good props and locations that feel like they could be a real place that these characters are currently in. They don't just feel like backgrounds, they feel like actual places, and I can't really say that for all the movies I've ever seen. The music though is just the most generic action movie music ever. It's big band action movie trash. It doesn't really fit any of the scenes and it lacks tension. It feels about as special as owning a copy of Super Mario 3D All-Stars. I really didn't even notice there was music at all until the Ralph scene, because that's like the only good song in the entire soundtrack. The acting is really as good as you're gonna get from kids this young. I think the weakest of the bunch is definitely Junie, but I mean his actor, Daryl Sabara, was literally 9 when this film came out, but I feel odd saying that because Gertie might actually be my favorite in this movie. Not favorite character, she's not all that, but Emily Osment did a great job portraying her, and she was also 9 years old at the time. I do like that this movie is able to create distinct characters though. I mean, they kind of go the distance to be cardboard cutouts, but I do still give credit for the fact that I can distinguish the characters on personality alone. I think the best character in the film is probably the dad, which isn't surprising because he's literally my favorite fearless hero. He's just a pretty goofy and lovable character, and I like how simple and caring he is. I also do like Gary. Don't get me wrong, he's the only reason that I think parents should still whoop their kids, but I do think he is written well. I like that I can despise him so much and that he does get his comeuppance at the end of the film. Lastly, the movie's actually paced pretty well. The first, second, and third act are pretty easily distinguishable from one another, and the action and spacing between action is pretty good. I think the pacing is actually probably some of the best of any movie I've reviewed. I feel like saying that has to be against one of the 10 commandments. I'm not sure which one, but one of them. So in conclusion, this movie, like any, has some strengths and some weaknesses. So where does that leave it on the score scale? This might sound crazy, but I think I'm probably gonna give it a 6 out of 10, which feels odd because that's the same thing that I gave She-Hulk. But I mean, most of the shit that I'm complaining about isn't really as deep as I act like it is, largely because of the type of movie that it is. Like, yeah, sure, it's pretty stupid and campy to all hell, but it's a kids movie in 2002. There are bigger things to bitch about. That being said, for the fun score, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. And this is gonna sound ironic, but I give it that score because it's so fun to make fun of. The amount of ridiculous shit in this movie makes it a blast to watch alone or with friends. I didn't really laugh when the movie really wanted me to, but there was something funny about seeing the Magnum Men being airlifted away during the third act climax. I would 100% recommend pairing this movie with copious amounts of dark liquor. Anyway, quick fun fact to end the video. When I knew I wanted to make another commentary, I wanted to review the movie with Dr. Electric in it. Yeah, that was Shark Boy and Lava Girl. I had literally gotten 40 minutes into this movie and halfway through writing the script and began to question where he was. Then I googled Mr. Electric and realized that I'm watching the wrong movie. So expect a video on that sometime soon. Next month I'm doing Disney Zombies because that is literally just like race relations for babies and it's honestly a little concerning. So Shark Boy and Lava Girl will probably be for April or maybe May. And I also want to review one of those weird animated Barbie movies for the June video in celebration of the live action Barbie movie coming out that month. So if you have one of those movies you recommend I should do, leave it in a comment if you have any ideas, because I do want ideas for that video. Also check out the description to follow me on my socials. I stream on Twitch and there's a Discord server. If you're one of the first 50 people to join the Discord server, you get a custom little golden roll, just like as I was here first badge, which is kind of cool, I think. But anyway, we're gonna get to watching Shark Boy and Lava Girl. What? What? You guys are weird as shit, you know that? We'll see you guys next week. No, seriously, who's a Taylor Lautner fan in 2023, dog?